All right, well, thanks everyone for coming. Appreciate being down here in Columbus. This is an hour and 15-minute talk, so a couple things you know is one, we are being filmed, so the cameraman wanted me to solve the glare problem I have. So please, yeah, everywhere I go, I have the same problems. And so if you ask questions, just please don't use profanity unless you want that to be public. So, but it's good to be here. So. This is our backlog we're going to get through, so it's on your card that we gave out to you. I think there's 9 steps there. We dropped to 0, but same idea. A little bit about me. So I'm actually from Pittsburgh. I actually went to Ohio State. I got an econ degree and a CIS degree. Moved back and forth all over the place. Pittsburgh, went back to Cleveland. Spent a lot of time in the Columbus area. At one point, the company I was working for got acquired by Nationwide. And we were the small, insurance company up in Cleveland. And I had built 3 or 4 Agile teams. And the CIO, when we were the stepchild, so the CIOs came up to see us, and they're like, "This can't possibly work. Like, you guys are having fun, and this place is weird. And who are your customers?" And I said, "Well, they sit next to you in Columbus." And so he went to see him. And when I approached him, the first thing he said was, "God, please don't make them work like IT," right? And so it was kind of a shocking moment to hear that to the CIO. So they kept sending people up to observe us, and finally, they said, "Hey, listen, how would you like to help us try to change how thousands of people work in Columbus?" I said, "Great." I said, "There's a lot of great people in Columbus trying to do this, but they're at corporate, and so mom and dad are home all day, so it's harder for them to break the rules and remove process and waste." So I spent the next 6 years doing that for Nationwide, part of a great Agile team, building out their delivery center. And then at some point, in 2008, I decided I was going to start my own company, and went on to do that. So I can't remember, that doesn't change. Most people know at Lean Dog because we have a boat. So if you're ever up in Cleveland, you're welcome to visit us. This is an 1892 steamship, so it's like 20 years older than Titanic. One of the reasons we have a boat is when we teach organizational change. One of the benefits of working down here in Columbus, I got to hang out with a lot of people that have backgrounds in psychology, sociology, organizational development, things way beyond a computer science and economics. So whenever I was going to start my company, I wanted some place that really was different, where we kind of broke all the rules. So as soon as you walk in our office, you're like, "Really? You bought a boat this old, and now you're going to renovate it?" And it has an amazing story. It used to be twice as long, and they cut the top off and cut it in half, and then they built a restaurant on it. So this was a 175-person restaurant with an 80-seat bar, and then we bought it and we renovated it. At the end of this, you'll see the before picture of the renovation. It didn't have this top and didn't have boats or docks or sea-doos or any fun to. You couldn't even open a window because they were afraid that there would be odor from the water and it would ruin the restaurant atmosphere. So we gave access. Another picture from afar with some of our toys. Even in the winter, when it's cold, we have fun. So this is our hockey rink out on the lake, Erie, and we have a curling rink, and we have an ice fishing tent. So you got to make the best of it. One of the best parts of coming to Columbus is sun. It always seems like it's always sunny down here, but it's often very gray up in Cleveland, so you got to make the best of it. What do we do at Lean Dog? We coach and we build software. The initial vision was 20 great people building software, having fun. That would be a good thing. We have about 60 people, and we go in and we help companies do transformations, and then we teach them how to fish, and then we leave. So we don't do staff augmentation. We're proud of turning cultures up and creating happy work environments with great business value delivered. When we talk about what we do, this is the transformation side of our business. So we coach at the team level, the PMO level, and the executive level. This talk is all about how we coach at the executive level. It's not a sales pitch. This is something that it's stupid simple, like most of the stuff we do in Agile. So there should be some things you should be able to pull out of here that you can go back and immediately practice. At least that's my goal today, is to make sure you can go back and try something and get value out of this. So about this talk. So when I started Lean Dog, first of all, I had never consulted a day in my life. I started a consulting company. Mistake. But when I did that, I was determined, how can I run my company lean and agile? It's one thing to build software products and teams, have features and product owners, and get requirements and all that. We'd solved that problem. We've been doing it. That was my job to do that. But now it's like, okay, how do I actually work as a leadership team and do this? So it was hard. It's been a 6-year journey to try to figure out how to do this. So this is just the current state of this. In 2008, I had a talk called Agile from the Top Down. And it was the beginnings of this. It was basically my I was speaking on it, trying to get feedback, because I was like, well, is anybody else trying to do this? Like, tell me how you're running at the leadership team level. How many people in here are leaders or managers? Most of you? Okay, so hopefully if you get something out of this talk and you use it, please tell me, because I don't get an opportunity to work with many companies that are trying to do it to this extreme. And so if you're doing it, I can learn from you. And so, and perhaps, advance how we do this. So the interesting thing that happened is about 2 years ago, customers started coming to the boat to visit us and check us out. And they'd come upstairs and they'd see how we run the company, and they'd see all these walls and all these techniques I show you are things we do every day. And when they saw it, they're like, hey, can you come back and help us do it? And our goal wasn't to create a new product. Our goal was just to try to run a company and businesses, in a lean and agile fashion. So we since then have been engaged to do 8 of these. We spent down in Columbus, Cardinal Health. We spent 6 weeks down here at the Fuse. Great group of people, great leadership team, and we helped them do theirs. And we've done a bunch in Palo Alto and all over the place. But we only practice this 8 times, and every time we do it, it's changing substantially because we're finally applying it outside leaned on context into your context, and we're learning a heck of a lot more as we do it. Okay, so what types of people, this was interesting too because we didn't expect this. There's certain situations where people want to adopt this framework. And I call it a framework. It's just a collection of our practices, our best practices. But basically sometimes the situation is teams are going agile and the executives aren't. So it's kind of like you're the parent and it's a shadow of a leader, right? And I kind of, I'm telling you to make your bed, clean your room, go back to kindergarten, work in an open workspace, put your homework on the wall. But I'm not willing to do that as a leader, right? It's a double standard. So often when we go and we engage a customer, we say, it's great we're helping your delivery teams, but are your executives willing to act the same way and follow the same values and principles as your teams, right? Another scenario is startup to setup. So, startup companies get going, they need to, as things start getting bigger, they start getting successful, and they need to establish some cadence to how they work and how they practice. In other words, and same with setup to scale. Sometimes the world that you're leading and managing gets too big that you can't keep tabs of it. Right, there's lots of moving parts on a leadership team of what you're responsible for. So at some point you can't, in lean thinking, you can't see the whole, right? You can't see everything that's going on, but you have to have some level of autonomy and control and trust. And so a lot of times it's a scalability issue. We're like, let's help you scale. Sometimes a new CIO or C-level person come to an organization, they take the job, they go through all the interviews, they really don't know what they're getting into, right? Until they walk through that door and start understanding the system. So we've been asked, for some people who are doing executive searches, hey, why don't you come in, do this executive thing, kind of paint the walls, paint the world, and create this framework, and then when we're interviewing people, we'll actually walk these CIOs or leaders around there in the interview process so they can better understand what it is they're going to be asked to lead and what they're asked to manage. Sometimes mergers and acquisitions are obvious because now you're taking 2 leadership teams, you got to clash them together, and you got to come out as one, right? So they're both, now you got 2 whole companies, right, of leadership. They're leading different things, different ways, different styles. So they need to kind of figure out a common way to manage and work together. And then 3 of those 8 were actually innovation studios where, hey, we need to put innovation, so we're going to buy a crazy building. We're going to put a bunch of cool people in there. They have the right attitude and aptitude. And we're going to try to innovate. And we're going to take shots at things. And I'll show you some of that in a minute. Okay. So the first step to changing is kind of understanding change. And this is one of the coolest things I learned from working with people outside of my craft. How many people have seen Rogers' innovation adoption curve? Right? So we love to use the word innovation, right? It's sexy, it's cool. But really what innovation means, if you read it, it's an idea, a practice, or an object that's perceived as new, okay? And this goes back to sociology, really old case studies of monkeys on islands eating fruit, and they introduce a new fruit, and how long does it take for the colony to adopt that that's acceptable food? So there's a whole bunch of case studies if you Google that and read behind it, and it just makes sense in any society. So the notion is that there's a certain, there's always, in most organizations, it's like 2.5% of people are innovators. Then you have early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. So it's often daunting when you go through change because you're like, oh, I can't imagine, my company's so big, I can't imagine changing the whole company. Well, here's how it works. You don't have to change the whole company. You get the innovators and early adopters on board first. Then you get the early majority, and then once you get the early majority, they'll start following. And you want to lose these people, right? Right? And that's through accountability culture. So we tell people we come in, it's like, wow, we just need to get you to 20%. You'll get to that tipping point. And then sociology will kick in, and all these people will start adapting, okay? So that's true with everything that you do. Once you get to over a certain point, it starts, people start following it and say, well, that is a better way, and I didn't want to be first, but but that's a better way of working, and people will do it. So it's very, very easy concept. Another important thing to understand is how people go about change. So when you're going to change, first you have to be aware, right, something's new or different. Then you have to consider it. Then you have to investigate it. Then you pilot it. Then you adopt it and say, this is how I work. And then you adapt it to what works for you, okay? So if you look at it that way, right, that's the curve. So anytime you're going to do change, I don't care if you're the person who's already here. You have to recognize everybody else around you is back here, or a lot of them, right? So you have to bring everybody up this curve together, right, and not assume that your knowledge is their knowledge, okay, and that their willingness to change, because you have to kind of assess what class they're in, and then you have to try to get them to move along. So I tell people, if you're going to invest in going agile, or make sure you invest in the right people, the people up on the front of the curve. Don't take your late majority and your laggards and say, hey, let's change them first. You're fighting really an uphill battle, right? At that point, you're starting at the wrong end, okay? So how do we do this? So if we get engaged to help a team, we've written a book. There's like 60 practices in here, from Lean, Kanban, sociology, servant leadership. It's our vocabulary at Lean Dog. It's what we coach on. It's not expected you do all 60, but it's our vocabulary. So the first thing we need to do with a leadership team or executive team, and like I said, if you're on that leadership team and you're the one agile evangelist or lean evangelist, your peers probably aren't, right? There's probably a mix. So first thing you need to do is give them respect and say, let's establish a vocabulary. We do this in 8 hours. Sometimes we do 4 hours. We visit a couple customers, do 4 hours. Then we do a planning game. But nonetheless, you need to establish your vocabulary, whether it's our book or your book, it doesn't matter. But you all have to agree what that means. I don't have the contents of our guide, but this isn't a chapter book. It's a bunch of bullet points, right? Here's a definition, and if I was going to have a conversation with you about retrospective stand-ups, Kanban, anything, these are the bullet points I would discuss with you. And now we can say, so what you call a stand-up is what I call a stand-up, what you call retro. So we need to get that, right? Really important to any society is vocabulary, right? One word said the wrong way, right, can do a lot of damage. So it's no different when you're trying to institute change. You need to identify your vocabulary first. So we do this with the executives, right? And it's 8 hours and it's fast, so they usually, they can tolerate it because you got to keep their attention span. We come out of there explaining to them the lean principles, agile practices, and systems thinking. Okay, those are the three kind of principles. And they kind of know their teams are doing it, but they don't know how they can do this, right? And that's what we're trying to get them to do. I talk really fast, you can tell. So just if you're going too fast, just stop me, and I can repeat myself and help. So this is an example. We did training down here at Cardinal in the room, and a couple key concepts they need to come out of there with is stand-ups, retrospectives, Kanban, because Kanban teaches you limits and WIP and constraints and flow, and there's a lot to be studied. Even at Nationwide, I think we were okay at Scrum. It wasn't until we introduced lean thinking that we really started getting to the next level. And so the nice thing about lean and executives is a lot of them have MBAs, right? And they've heard about lean and Toyota Way. So lean's often a better word in that culture to use than agile. So sometimes we have agile movements, and that's why this is lean executive, right? Because they can explain lean to their business partners better. We also teach them what servant leadership really means, and we kind of deep dive into this. Because often on a leadership team, you have different leadership styles, and it's like having two fathers and two mothers, right? You got different ways of everything, and so it's very confusing. So often we have to kind of assess, hey, do we have command and control, or does everybody here want to be a servant leader, right? Because we can't kind of play both ways. And sometimes there's laggards, right, at every level. I mean, every team's, even at the leadership level. And so we really emphasize these, and we go through every one of these in detail to make sure they actually understand what that means. It's not just a word, right? They actually know what that means. I have another talk that I do where we actually map all the things we do at Lean Dog back to servant leadership. So what practices uphold which pillars, and then how do we make sure we're upholding those? So it's just not a word, but that's a very important concept. So the goal is after that 8 hours, we've taught them the basics of what we need them to practice. They kind of understand the big vocabulary that their delivery teams are using, right? That they may never touch, but at least they now, it's respectful for you to know what your teams are doing at this level. So now you at least know the basics of the vocabulary. And if you forget what ATD is, you can open up your book and say, oh, okay, that's right. That's what this does for us, and that's how that helps quality, et cetera. So we kind of have to set the foundation. So now what we've done is we set awareness, right? We set consideration, because we're talking obviously during this day, and we're saying, hey, what practices out there do you like? And by the way, these are the ones we're going to coach you on. These are the ones you're going to implement. and it, hopefully your leadership team is mostly on the left side of that bell curve, so so you can go pretty fast into this, and they adopt pretty quickly. This is a collaboration aid. This is a really important tool for us. Jurgen Appello from the Netherlands came and taught a Management 3.0 class at our boat, and he had taken what was called delegation something before, and before that it was something else. So it's been around for a long time. And, we're good at IT of renaming things and throwing acronyms on them, but we didn't like the word delegation. We liked more the word collaboration, because that's really what it's about. So we modified it. So how many people are familiar with RACI, right? Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I used to be that manager. I had to do all the RACI stuff, and I had responsible, accountable, consultant, inform, right? So PMI, project management, and stuff, and you felt these charts, right? And I never knew how to apply that, right? It was just something I had to do, and so when we saw this, we thought, wow, we think this is a better way because it makes it clearer. So basically, on the one is tell. It's like, hey, listen, I'm going to take accountability. I'm going to do this. So the RA, the responsible and accountable, is 1, 2, and 3. 4 is agreeing, right? So here it's my responsibility, but I'm going to try to get buy-in from others. I want your insight, but I'm going to decide how we work. I want to work together and solve this problem with you. On the other side, that's pairing. This is the consultant inform side. So advise means, right? I'm going to give you the insight, and then you're free to make the decisions because you're responsible. So I'll tell you everything I know about it, but you make the call. Okay? I'm truly just consulting and informing you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, right? I don't have a right to do that. Inquire, same thing. Like, hey, I just want to understand the data behind it so I can support you. So you say, well, why did you do that with a project? Oh, yeah, that's right. Dan told me all about it, and this is why, and I got his back. And we empowered him to do this. He's responsible and accountable. We'll see if it works or not. So it's important to do that. Delegate means I kind of see it when I see it, right? I don't want to know about it. Don't email me. Don't include me. Just whenever it happens, and I'm sure it'll come out great because I completely give you complete delegation, right, and autonomy and control. So this is what we use. The Joker is kind of the bullshit card, right? So that's just for fun. So that's kind of like, hey, you told me to make a decision or run with a project or do something, and then at the last minute you swooped in like a seagull and you tried to change everything, right? Bullshit. Here's a Joker card, right? And I rarely see people use it, but the notion's there that we always have to refer back to we agreed to this vocabulary as a leadership team. So courage, communication, feedback, respect, simplicity, XP values, right? That the respect part is that we have to be able to call each other out whenever they're swooping from that side to this side. And that's often what happens, right? That's a lot of the contention that happens in leadership is understanding that autonomy and control. It's easy to say it, but it's really hard to practice it. So let me show you how we do it. So this is how we run Lean Dog. So we sell coaching, training. We have our studio, development work. We have account management. We have lots more than this, but it had to fit on the screen. So we went and signed up for the work, right? So coaching, Mike and I, right, we're kind of running the coaching practice. We pair with Greg and Matt to actually as well on this, but ultimately him and I are responsible and accountable, okay? So what happens when you fill out these charts, if you see a pattern, and this changes, right? And that's one of the hardest things to do because leadership always changes, right? I'll go into backlog and how we manage backlog, but it's always changing. So there's times where I can be over here and then, oh, hey, I got to go out to India or Palo Alto for 6 weeks. Okay, guess what? I got to move myself over here now, right? And make that clear that I can't be managing the backlog for coaching because right now I need to go off and do this. So since priorities are always shifting, right, we have to be very honest about it. Otherwise, we just start dropping balls, right? And it's not clear. So while this looks like a static thing, if you come to the boat, they're actually Post-it notes, right? And when we do our planning game, we actually talk about shifting those around. Leaders lead because they're good at solving problems and removing roadblocks, right? People love startups. They love being on leadership teams. Moving around in your job to different responsibilities is fun, okay? Most people like that. But a lot of times, just like we lock in roles on a delivery team, we lock in roles on a leadership team. And if you're always marketing, you're always marketing. If you're always this. We know that some of the best companies in the world, they groom their CEOs by making them go across all of these different disciplines because leadership is leadership, right? You can handle the domain space. So we try to do that too. We try to mix up who's over on the RACI side, right? And then we swap it out. So it keeps it fun for us as leaders, and it's not like you're locked into a job title. We don't like job titles, right? We're just part of the leadership team, and our role for the day or the week can change based on our demands, and I'll show you how we do planning to get there. Okay, This is a really critical piece. It's called the big visual room. So one of the key concepts of information radiators is, again, vocabulary. It's all about communication. A lot of times, I got to point that way. We all think we're on the same page, right? How many people have seen this? This picture's been around for ages. Old ThoughtWorks diagram. So as soon as we make things physical and we put our mental models out on the table, we can really realize, wow, we're just off by a little bit. But it was an important little bit. Right? It could lead to a lot of mistrust and miscommunication and waste. So once we're on the same page, then we can start converging, right, and get on the same page for real. So making things physical, that's how we operate as humans. It's a lot easier to digest the physical thing than it is a mental thing. And so we're really big on that. So once we get that general consensus, now we can move forward. So when we take on one of these engagements, we go in sometimes with 4 to 6 coaches for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. And the first thing we do is we create a backlog. We can say, wow, wouldn't it be great if you had a huge room, this is our big visual room, and we have all these walls, and that wall there says, okay, what's this company about? Who are our customers? Who are our products? What's our technical debt? What are our assets? These are just some of the walls. I think the one we did down here, we built 27 or 28 walls down at the Fuse, yeah. And I did one in California, we did 48. Okay, and all these walls aren't going to stick around, but the goal was to get everybody on the same page. Once you're on the same page, then we're like, okay, we need more walls, so we're managing a lot. So now let's make these walls pretty. So we'll bring a UX person in. The things that are pretty stagnant, like architecture and things like that, don't change a lot. We'll downsize those and make those small and concise so we can free up wall space. The whole goal of this is to keep it light and get on the same page. So we go in with the team. We create the backlog. So this was a leadership team, a big leadership team. We went through and we said, which walls are we going to create? Who's responsible and accountable, right, for which walls and which functions? And then we broke, and we went off and we put 1 or 2 coaches with each exec, and we went off and we started, and we don't know anything because we're new. We're like, okay, let's paint your world on this wall. What does finance mean? What does, how are you structured? What are your application assets? Who are your customers? What are their personas? What are your program goals? What are your project goals? How do you manage requests? Let's map your value stream. How do you go from intake, right, to delivery to production? How do you measure business value? What are your key performance indicators? So we built out all these walls, and it's pretty fun to do. It's so simple to do, but it's so fun to do because people say, wow, I've learned so much about this. And now when you hire people to come into your company, you walk the walls. So in the interview process, I'm interviewing my next leader, my next developer, next UX person, I don't care. We take them into the building and we say, okay, well, let's start here. This is where the tour starts. This is who we are. This is the customers we serve. These are our market data. These are our program goals and objectives for the years. These are how we structure. These are the application assets, our technology stack, our demand funnel. These are innovation projects. Oh, and this is the team you're fitting in, and you're working on this project and this code base. Right? So it's a walking tour that anybody in your company can tell. Right? The problem as a leader, you have all this knowledge in your head because you're managing all these different components, but seeing the whole, the people working for you don't see all that. And good people will do the right thing if they understand the whole system, right? If it looks like, oh, we're just changing priorities at the top in their ivory tower, versus, oh, no, we're going to change this and see how it impacts around the room, right? People don't mind change as long as they can understand how it connects. Oh, we just had a new market opportunity or an acquisition or whatever it is. When we update the walls and tell that story, right, everybody's connected to the whole picture. And we're taking the mystery out of what you lead, right? Because you're worried about all these things. You have people on your teams managing all these things, but you're sitting, if you're sitting in an office behind your computer, nobody sees that, right? They don't get any respect for your backlog and what you're managing. And so it's really fun to do and pretty easy to do. We believe that every company has to manage 3 different delights, okay? You have to have customer delight, so your customer's happy with your product. Or business delight, does it make business sense to do the work, right? And are your people happy? So in this case, we actually mapped all the walls back to which delights we were managing. And you can see in this case, we only had like 2.5 for customer delight. So right away, it's wow, we need more information radiators on are our customers really happy with our products and solutions? How are we going to manage that? So this is just one example, but we manage Lean Dog to these delights in every company we coach. And we say, okay, how do we make sure? It's one thing to get projects out, but if you lose sight of any one of these things, you're not running a really good culture, right? If you're doing the wrong things for the business, if your people aren't happy, if your customers aren't happy, you're going to fail. So we kind of roll those up. This is a different customer company alignment wall. I'll just show you some. This is In the PMO, this is shots on goal, so these are innovation projects. So the idea was, oh, we're really good at doing delivery, but we never get to do new innovative stuff. So we did more of a lean startup approach for those with hypothesis and all that. And then they took shots on goal. You can see the little goalies they had there. It's since changed, right? All these walls, if these walls aren't changing, they aren't adding value, right? Because the whole world's changing, right? If something was really static, either you quit using the wall, or it was just to get on the same page, and let's just freeze it, make it pretty. Don't check it into SharePoint. Don't put it in a wiki. Put it up where you can't reach it. Put it up on the wall and keep it up there. You can't see it here, but every wall has a critical component, right? It has a description of the purpose of the wall and the intention behind it, and it usually has the pictures of the people who are responsible for the wall. So if I walk up to this wall and I don't get it, or I want to, I can say, oh, who do I need to track down to understand this? Okay. This was a wall to understand the health of products, right? So they're managing 12 different products. This is all product ownership. KPIs, which ones are going up, which ones are going down, which ones are going flat. How are we measuring them? How are we measuring delight for each of these products, right? So again, these look completely different now, but it was a good start. It was the first time we really had this view that people could walk up and digest. And that's the beauty of information radiators, right? Is that anybody in your team, in your organization should be able to walk up. If you go to Lean Dog, you can see how much money we have in our bank account, right? It's all on the wall. It's 100% transparency. And so that what you'll find is that even your developers and people in here, they'll take a break and they'll go up and they'll walk upstairs. We have our keg upstairs with our bar, right? And so it's great because we have our leadership up on the top of the boat and our delivery design people down on the first floor of the boat. And but when happy hour, what do? They walk around with a beer and they check out the walls and we talk, right? Beer draws. I mean, that's a good attractant for walls. I'll let you know. So just make sure it's good beer. And then yeah, here's more walls. Here's key performance indicators, work in progress. This here's a value stream map of a workflow process. This is our boat. So this is the corner of our boat. You can see all of our walls. Whoa, I'm trying to use the laser thing. I don't usually use this, but yeah, so you can see we have walls there. I'll show you that in detail later. They're always popping up. They're always changing. On Friday, on Friday after our stand-up, we all clean for 15 minutes. We put on polka music because it annoys most people. And it's kind of like musical chairs. And for 15 minutes, you have to go around and clean up your boat because we're all adults. And we have to put our stuff away. So we come back Monday, our house is cleaner than we left it, right? And we, at that point, look at all our walls, and we talk about what walls we should get rid of. Which ones were just popped up for a conversation to get on the same page, and which ones should stay up, right? And often we rearrange walls, too. Like, oh, wow, it'd make more sense to move this wall over there. And so we don't have enough, being on the lake, we put a lot of windows in, which is great, but then we cover them with Post-it notes, and now we can't see, so yeah, it's kind of funny. This is a spending wall that we use. So money is a funny thing, right? Everybody wants to spend it, and everyone wants more, right? And so, I'm the dad, and so everybody's like, hey, can we get this? Can we get this? Can I speak at this conference? Can I buy this? So we created a simple wall, and you come over, and if you want to buy something, you put it on here. You have to do your analysis, your proposal. We have a weekly spending cadence where everybody that wants to spend stands around. It's right next to our financial wall. These are all our KPIs, our bank account, our billing rate, our accounts receivable, all the things that my finance person keeps an eye on, all her dials, right? And then these are, we use beer mugs with beer, but these are our indicators of our goals and whether we're filling the mug or not. And so, but this is transparency. It's not, when people come up and say, hey, I'd love to buy the cool 3D printer or laser cut plasma machine for our design studio, and it's $3,000, and I can say no. Or I can say, okay, well, let's put this up with everybody else that wants to spend money. We have budgets and we have goals, and how are we looking with receivables? How are we looking with sales forecast and all these things? And then they understand the decision. And it's not saying no; they're part of the decision-making process with us. It's not a yes or no, right? Go ask mom, go ask the next person, and try to find budget for it. They understand why we can or can't do things. Like, oh, well, we chose to do this, and as a team, we're going to choose to spend money on this instead of this, and this is why. It ties back to this goal for our company. Right? It completely changes how you work. Any questions about that? It's 3 steps in. Good? Talking too fast? Yeah, go ahead.
So what about really diverse locations, right? So
yep.
It's great if you guys are all in one
yeah.
area.
Yep, so good question. So the question was, what about distributed teams, right? Large corporations, y'all can't be in the same spot with one big visual room. So one of the things when you manage, you got to manage to the majority. So often we'll put a lot of process in place or technology in place to handle that 10%, 20% offset. So reality, there is going to be a hub, right, somewhere. And we say, wow, we're going to do what works for us the best. And then now since you're the minority, we're going to have to figure out how to acquiesce and support you. But just because you're remote doesn't mean I'm put everything in a tool to make 20, and I'm spending a lot of money for 80% of us, so 20% of us feel included. We have an honest conversation and say, hey, you're remote. How do we want to do this? We actually have a double robot, right, that we can drive like a Segway with an iPad on it around the walls. It doesn't work real well for the clarity. But bottom line is we have people remote. You have to have a communication plan, period, right, as a leader. So this is where you quarterback from. What you communicate out, you can do your slide shares and all that and disseminate the information. There's no way you don't need to share 100% of the information. That's not the goal of this room. The goal is to get the leadership team on the same page. It might mean the remote leader has to fly in and walk those walls. It might mean that, hey, as a leader, I'm responsible and accountable for 3 walls. So I need to figure out a way to pair with you to get your wall updated. I'm going to keep it with the same wall here. I'm going to take a picture and send it to an administrative person who will update the wall on a weekly basis with the changes. So there's lots of ways you can do it. But again, we're really good because we're analytical. We manage the exception, right? And it's like you have to have that honest conversation. If you aren't at, in the home office, there's no way you could ever have as much insight. Whether I put it in a tool or don't put it in a tool. Yeah, so it's, we do our company meetings. I have 60-something people and 20-something on the boat, and they all can't fly in, right, for the meeting. So we do the best we can of pulling off the critical elements and then running through a slide deck, right? We do a thing called an extreme meeting. We take our whole company every 3 or 4 months, completely out of the client. We go do something outdoors and fun and, rock climb, whatever. And when we do that, we really spend time walking the walls before we do that. So we make certain points. There's different communication plans for different levels. There's no easy solution, but it's hard. Your mind can shift so fast. That's why the paper works, right? The cost is cheap and things are always changing. Good question. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So how do you make decisions fast, right, or collaboratively? How many people have heard of Fist of 5? Awesome. Yeah, this hat actually helps. So Fist of 5, often as humans, we can really belabor a decision because we want 100% buy-in, right? So we're sitting there talking about whether we should do something, and we all keep talking because I think you're 80% there, I think you're 90% there, but I want you to be 100%. So we spend a lot of time spinning cycles. Reality is we're all way over the majority that we should do this. So if we just do a quick vote, so we always say if we're talking about something, we'll say, hey, Fist of 5, right? And it's pretty simple. 5 means, heck, I'm all for it. That means, hell no, I'm going to undermine it, right? 3s, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't care either way, right? And then 4. And so we do these voting a lot just to make quick decisions because we know that if we're a good leadership team, we're going to do it, and then we're going to learn from it, and then we can adapt, right? So if we fail, we learn something, so that's okay. And so we were doing this for a couple teams, and every morning after stand-up, they were having Fist of 5. They just called it Fist of 5 meeting. Hey, I got to make 5 decisions today. Facility saying, hey, I want to buy these chairs for the developers. These are my options. I'm going to pick this one, Fist of 5. Good. We're making an average of 10 or 15 decisions in like 10 or 15 minutes, right? If it takes more than a minute for you guys to collectively say whether we should do it or not, okay, now we should talk about it. So let's say we do a Fist of 5, right? And it's like Murphy's Law. All your name tags are backwards. But Beverly, all right, thank you. If we don't agree with something, Beverly's like, hell no, I won't go. We'll say, okay, well, we better talk about this. Let's have a meeting, and that's Fist of 5 training. And let's apply 6 thinking hats. How many people have seen this? Good, yeah. Edward de Bono, 1964, right? Or 68 or something crazy. So great book, but so often we'll say, okay, wow, that didn't go so well. Beverly was really against it. Traylene was a little bit iffy on it too. So we're going to have a 6 thinking hat meeting about this topic. Who wants to be in it, right? And so that's it. You schedule a little meeting, and then we apply these hats. So the way it is, the person with the blue hat, and you can buy cool hats and make this fun, right? And wear the colored hats. But the problem is that you have to actually take yourself through these different states. So you say, all right, I'm the facilitator. Let's put on the red hat. So in the red hat, we're going to talk about this. We're talking about throwing a Path to Agility conference, right? And the red hat is say, okay, emotional. How do you feel about this, right? You don't have to justify or explain it, but just tell me how you feel about it. You know, I think it's an awesome, you know, just get your feelings out on the table. Okay, now we're going to take the red hat off. We're going to put the yellow hat on. What's the best, what are all the positive aspects if we ran this conference, right? What are all the creative aspects? What are all the facts? It's just the facts. Wow, there's going to be, how many people are here? 700, something like that? A lot. Anyways, lots of people here. It's marketing, blah, blah, blah. So when you start getting this all at the table, the important is not to be black hat at everything. The person, right? If Beverly it was black hat in this from the get-go, we're forcing her to go through these different emotional states. And the facilitator's job is like, as soon as you start black hatting something, we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. We aren't on the black hat yet. We're just talking about the facts, right? Not all the things could be bad about this, but just the facts at this point. It's amazing how simple this works and how easy it is and how often it really, really works. I've seen like developers argue about frameworks for weeks. We're like, hey, let's do 6 thinking hats on this framework versus this framework. And they come out of it and the person who was perceived as black hat actually got their solution, because when they all looked at it through all these different lenses, they actually all came to a different conclusion and they came to it together. So this is how we kind of resolve conflict. We talk through this, and a facilitator at the end of the day, at the end of this, we take another vote, right, and then we decide what we're going to do. So collaboration 8, we used it to talk about autonomy and control earlier, right, who's responsible, accountable, consultant, informed. We also use it to make decisions. So let's say we were talking about throwing the super mega conference RAMA, right? And what we do is we took Post-it notes and we put them across the top, right? Over here we said, okay, well, what are the epics? What's involved with throwing a conference? Well, we need to get a location. We need to get food and drink. We need advertising. We need some money. We need to get speakers and sessions, right? And there's probably all these big elements. Because often we're really good at overcommitting, right? And it's like, oh, let's do this conference, but wait, I'm consulting and informing. You guys have to do all the hard work. I was a fist of 5, but that didn't mean I wanted to do anything, right? I just wanted to sit back and watch and go to the happy hour afterwards. So that's what we do. We start putting our names. We start signing up for the work, right? So now we're looking at, okay, do we have enough people that are responsible and accountable? So hey, there's a risk here, right? Bill's really cares about the food and drink. Probably can't do it himself, right, for the whole conference. Amy's over here. She just wants to inquire. There's no interest in the food. So what are we going to do? Maybe we don't do this, right? Because we don't want to have bad food. So it really helps you look at who's going to take responsibility and accountability. And then if you execute this conference and you get done, then you do your retrospective, right? And you talk about what to improve. You'll learn something. You say, oh crap, we all voted, and we said, yeah, Bill's got the food. He makes a great pig roast, and yada yada yada, right? And then we ran out of food. Nothing worked. I'm like, wow, I had a lot of respect and trust for Bill. But the next time we do a conference, I'm going to remember this. and I'm going to have to jump up. If I didn't like the outcome, I'm going to have to actually get involved and pair with Bill or work with Bill so that we can pull off the food to make it better last time, right? So again, really simple to do. We do it all the time, and you'd be amazed at how many things we don't do because we took the time to do this little exercise. And we say, wow, we're just adding something on that we don't have all the right passion around this to actually execute on, or we don't have the right skills on our team to do this. We were thinking about opening a new office in the West, and we did this on a West Coast office, and we learned, right? Wow, okay, how many people are willing to travel out West all the time and do this and that? And we kind of broke it down, and while it sounded fun to do, right? We didn't have the passion or the ability to do it, to execute on it. We didn't have the right people on the team to cover all the bases to actually execute that. Good, questions? How are we doing time-wise?
About 35 minutes.
Good, okay. Okay, this is the most complicated part of this, is your backlog. So how do you guys manage your backlog today as leaders, right? Or anybody, personal backlog, doesn't matter, right? If we're going to truly create if you have an agile team, all your work's up on the wall. Your cards, your product owners, everything you know, right? How do leaders do that, right? Because your backlog is kind of in your self-control, right? You are the product owner in a sense of your domain. You can create work, you can delete work, you can create work for other people, right? And so it really becomes complicated, and it's way different than doing a software project. So this has been the hardest problem. Like I said, I don't even have this one solved or partially. We have it partially solved, but it's a really, really hard practice to do is to contain this. So I'm going to spend a good bit of time kind of showing you how we do it, and I hope some of you guys try it and then tell me how you can make it work better. So it's hard for me as a leader. It's really easy for me to walk in and, I'm president, use my title, president and CEO. So, hey, Mike, here's 5 things for you to do. Here's 3 things for you to do, 2 things for you to do. That's really easy, right? I'm going to get frustrated because Mike's already got a lot on his plate, but I often don't know what is on Mike's plate. So how do I know if what I asked him to do is more important than what he's already doing? Right? It's a basic question. It's what we do when we build software, right? We put the highest value things first. But sometimes the highest value thing first for us is just beating down our inbox, right, and going to meetings, right? Right? And that's a reality of how our ecosystem works. So we really have to work hard not to fight this big inbox war and not to go to too many meetings, right? So this is how we do it. So this is how we break up the different types of backlog. So I have lots of meetings. I have I'm not corporate, so I don't have as many as most of the corporate people here, right? But I have 2 or 3 meetings a day, which that's 2 or 3 hours of an 8-hour day. That's gets to almost half my capacity. So how do I get my other work done, right, when I have so many meetings to go to? I have my personal things, right? I still got wife, kids, dogs, and stuff going on that I have to deal with, and things are on my mind about before or after work that I have to manage and track somewhere. And then we have projects that I'm involved in, right? So I signed up to run that conference Rama, right, or whatever it is, or lead the West office or something like that. And then I have, my department. Okay, so ultimately, as a president CEO, I'm supposed to face a lean dog, so I have some obligations there that I need to get out and do things. So in my role that are just required of me. So first thing you do is get all our backlog into one system. Okay, because just like a software project, what do, right? You create your backlog, you look at it, you group it, you create MVPs, you create product releases, and you actually organize your backlog. It's really hard to do it when your backlog is your texts on your phone, your email, your voicemails, right? Your project tracking systems, all this stuff. Your backlog is not in one system, it's completely scattered. So how many people are familiar with getting things done? Most? Yeah. So another book. So the notion of getting things done is you either do something, and that means it's done. You defer it, which means I'm just deferring it to my personal backlog, right? Or my project backlog, or one of these backlogs. I'm shoving it off to do later. Often it's in my inbox, right? That's my reminder. I got to do something about that. It's hanging around in my inbox. I need to delegate it, meaning I give it to somebody else. In that case, when I delegate it, sometimes I delegate it, and I delegate it on the collaboration 8 chart, and it's just a pure delegate, right? Sometimes I'm a 6, sometimes I'm a 5, which means I want to be informed, right? So even though I delegated it to, you have your name tags around. Oh, okay, I'm going to pick on Rich. All right, so Rich, so something I gave it to Rich, but I also was signed up. I'm kind of like a 5 or a 6 on this. So I know there's going to be some of my work to actually stay at a 5 or a 6. If it's a 7, I just give it to you, walk away. But I know that Rich is going to have to talk to me. I'm going to have to give him my insight. I'm going to have to learn about his work, right? So that is a deferred backlog, right? If I'm not a 7, then I'm involved, right? So there's some cost to me to actually keep an eye on that card that Rich is playing, right? So delegation is really easy to do, and we often over delegate, right? and that creates just chaos, because delegation without autonomy and control just like I said, it creates work for me. I just didn't really get rid of it. I gave it to you at a 6 or a 5 or a 4 level, so I have to stay involved. And then there's delete, right? If it's noise, delete. So this is kind of hard. We use a tool called Trello. How many people know about Trello? Yeah, pretty awesome little tool. So we create a personal Trello board. So there's John's board, there's Mike's board, there's Matt's board. We all have a board. It's all visible to everybody on our leadership team. Okay. We generate a list in Trello called Inbox Zero Backlog. We go into there. You can go into Trello and say, hey, generate an email list for Inbox Zero, and it gives you a nice URL. Slap that into your contact list. Right? Now, when I go through my inbox and I want to get my backlog there, all I do is forward all those emails to Trello John, Trello John, Trello John, Trello Mike, Trello Matt, right? And everybody's set up so it's all populating our Inbox Zero. So all the new work, the incoming work, is populating there. It's not an email anymore, right? Our goal is, and then I'll show you exactly how I do this. I'll show you the details, because again, my inspiration to do this is to also learn from you guys. If somebody can figure out a better way, it takes a lot of time to do this. I mean, our goal is that by stand-up every morning at 8:30, we all have Inbox Zero. So I'll show you. We have a whiteboard, and all our names across the top, and Monday through Friday on the left, we actually look at the week, and we have little stars. And if you hit Inbox Zero, you put a star up. That means you've done we've all agreed that we're all going to try to do the same personal time management stuff, right? Which is, again, hard to do, because everybody struggles with the issue of personal management, right? But getting a team to say, wow, we're all going to do it the same way, right, is really challenging, because your personal preference. Like, I like to keep lists. I like to keep post-it notes. I keep it in tasks or all these different apps you do. Getting us to say, wow, if we can't share our backlog and we can't be completely transparent across ourselves and what we're doing, then we can't truly prioritize the value in the right order, okay? Because I just don't know what's on your plate, and I need to know what's on your plate to be respectful for you, okay? So this is my Trello board. That's me and one of my daughters holding it. That's a fishtail, if you're wondering what the heck that is. Get that so you can focus on the slide. So here's the inbox 0. Here's some personal things I'm working on. I own the boat with another guy, and we rent our companies. So this is, when I meet with him, my next meeting, this is a backlog of things we need to talk about. This is product development. These are new ideas we're working on at Lean Dog, so you got to keep moving forward. So I come with a lot of weird ideas, so I have to put them somewhere about what we want to build next or do. This is how many emails do you get? Hey, read this, learn this. Here's a link to this, right? Right? Your continual improvement, your learning list is endless. So all I do is I say, wow, I'm going to shove all those there. And next time when I'm driving on vacation, I'm going to bang out my learning list. I'm going to read 10 articles. So I'm grouping up all those learning things and getting them out. Hey, Alistair, good to see you. So that's an example. So those are the first 5 types of guys. And every one of our boards are different. This is just how I chose to organize mine. Yours will be different. It's how you think and how you categorize your work. Here's another one. I have backlog. I just have backlog. That's like my bad bucket because that means I didn't really manage it. Here's conferences I'm going to. Here's things I need to schedule. Here's things that are scheduled 2 weeks out. So this is another hard part. Since most of us have so many meetings, getting your meetings into Trello, because I don't want to look at my calendar and then look at my inbox and try to balance, like, what am I going to focus on today? How am I going to do this? So what I do is I forward all my meetings to Trello, and I put a date on them, and I have all kinds of different scheduling things to do, because that's part of leadership is, like, unfortunately, scheduling a lot of meetings. So so here's 3 meetings I need that are in the process of being scheduled. So my administrative help is helping me schedule these things. So being a president CEO, they reach out to you first, and you get a lot of inquiries, and I forward it to her and copy her, send it to my Trello board. She works on scheduling it for me, right? And then it pops over here. These are things that I've scheduled this week. These are things scheduled for next week, and anything greater than 2 weeks out, I just shove in here. Okay, and the reason I have these lists is because you're looking at a screen and you can only see down so far. So I found it like averaging. I try to average no more than 2 or 3 meetings a day at max. So I found that in a week, right, I can handle like 10 or 15 in my scrolling thing. So that's why I have that. So you see the due dates on there, right? I also have next today. So great, I have some meetings today, or I missed and canceled a meeting, right? So somebody canceled on me last minute, or I got tied up and I missed a meeting, and I don't want to miss meetings. So if I miss it, I want to get that rescheduled right away because it's disrespectful. Or I have things I'm just waiting and watching. So these are all my delegation things that are not a 7, right? 6, 5s, and 4s. So I know that, wow, I have an obligation to go with Rich. Or what, maybe things have changed and I need to go to Rich and say, hey, I'm a 7 now. Take me off your meetings. Quit copying me. I'll see it when I see it because I just got too much on my plate, right? So I have to remember all those constraints and all those cross-team commitments that I made to my peers. Questions so far? Time. All right. I couldn't use my presentation view, so I can't see the time on the clock. All right. So the reason that I put due dates on here is because then I use the calendar view, and here you are. We're at Path to Agility, 10 a.m. Okay. I have to meet with Dave later. There's a dinner tonight. Doing a class tomorrow here. And then on the way home, I have a conference call. I have to respond to that, and I got to meet 2 other people while I'm here. Okay? So what I did is I took what's scheduled, and then I filled in my backlog for the day with all my other stuff, right? And so often when I'm doing the planning game, when I get to 0 and I look at my meetings, like, crap, I got to get out of some of these meetings because I had some real goals I need to get done this week. Or hey, I'm going to speak at a conference, and I need to clean up this talk, right, to go speak at a conference. So that's how I use it. The calendar view and getting all that to work, it takes a lot of work, right? But prior to grooming your backlog, prioritizing your backlog should. So how does this feed to my peers? So again, we have a daily stand-up. We try to get to 0. We put it up there. We put our daily goals on the board. During the meeting, we don't say, what did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? We're all leaders, right? I hope we did good stuff yesterday. What I really want to do is adapt my plan. So this is our stand-up wall. These are the leaders across the top. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are down the side. So the first thing we do is we all write our meetings up there, right? Because and make sure it's on our Trello board. And then now we can round out what we're going to do the rest of the day by pulling from our personal backlog, right? Or I say, oh yeah, I'm watching Rich, so I need to go hang out with Rich a little bit and get an update on that project or whatever that is. Questions? Thoughts? Yeah.
Going back to your Trello, is there a little calendar API for that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you can merge your Trello.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of plugins. So the question was, are there any APIs for Trello and all that? It's pretty robust. There's a couple plugins I tried to do for the calendaring thing, and that works great until people change meetings. Right? It doesn't have backward flow, so it was creating like, I'm like, oh, am I with Alistair on Tuesday or Thursday? Because I can't remember which way it changed. So some of the APIs are good, but they don't, since it doesn't have backward data compatibility, talking back.
API, but I'm just wondering about like a URL you can move calendars and you see, yeah, so you can merge them. So I do something like we use Trello to work on.
Yeah.
Just base
Yep.
those are in the Google Calendar.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I haven't figured out this whole calendaring syncing thing. So if you got to figure it out, I would love to learn how to do it because I've tried so many different ways to do it, and short of stopping my developers to code something for us. Yeah. Okay. Good. There you go. You can help me do it. Good. Any other questions? Who's going to try this? Will you? It's hard. So if you do, please let me know how it's working for you. Because even across our leadership team here, I think really 3 of us are really hitting 0 every day. Out of and that's not the complete list. There's more names than there are up here. Some people are really sticking to their personal time management ones. The other reason, and I'm not a big tool fan, but the other reason, your backlog is so big, and if you travel, you have to have it online, right? Some people like that are on the boat all the time, they don't use Trello. Their backlog, it's actually written up here. You can't see it. Where they keep their backlog, it says whether it's on Trello or it's on the. If you don't travel, you just put it on the wall, right? And it's big. It's a lot of stuff, and sometimes they're printing spreadsheets of backlogs and putting stuff up there. But nonetheless, they choose not to use Trello. So, yeah.
Yeah, some of the folks in the boat have the trifold foldable things so that they're
Yeah,
portable around.
lots of Yeah, I'll show you the trifolds here in a second. Yeah. So the goal of our stand-up. So one of as a leader, right, you show up to your job to do the best job you can do every day. I have no doubt you shouldn't be on the leadership team, right? The challenge is understanding what your peers are working on. And often I wake up and I get in the shower, I'm like, okay, get my game on. What am I going to do today? And I come in and I get and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot. Right? I forgot we had to get that RFQ out, or we need this customer's coming in, or geez, you mean Agile, Path to Agility is only 3 days out? Panic, right? And so that happens all the time, especially in the services industry. We're always adapting. So the most important thing I can do for the day is say, hey, wow, I really need help today. I'm throwing up the flag. I'm at the last responsible moment. I'm speaking in Columbus tomorrow, right? And I don't have any. I was hoping to work with our designers to design this little card, and I couldn't do it. Who can help me with this one card to get this thing done? Right? A good team will adapt for each other, right? And say, hey, I don't want John to fail at his conference. I want him to hand out something. So that happens all the time. We adapt every day. Interviews, you name it. There's always something that makes us adapt. So when I look at the people that are on my leadership team, I don't care if you're in finance, you're in legal, you're in HR. I care, are you doing the right thing for us every day based on the highest value thing we can do that day, right? And we've had people switch 3 or 4 different roles at Lean Dog, right, by sliding around. So, which is another important thing. So let's say my finance person, has a health issue or she's out, right? And I have 2 of them. But to say, the primary one with most of the knowledge about how we do things, she's out. Well, now her backlog's completely exposed. I can go and look at her Trello board and say, wow, what was Lisa doing today? Like, what was her priorities and what meetings did she have, and how can we support her as a team member, right? So again, you get a lot more value when you expose what we're doing. And it takes the mystery out of it for your teams. Anybody at Lean Dog can see my backlog. And if I'm not working on the right thing, they can call me out on it, right? And say, hey, why are you, working on this crazy skylift idea and other ideas I do in the community when we actually really need your help over here, right? And can you support us? So ultimately, we're trying to create T-shaped people, right? People that have this deep experience but are willing to go broad, right? And we can shift and adapt and pivot when we need to. This is no different than we want on our delivery teams. Okay, squads and boards. How many people are familiar with Spotify? Awesome. How about Spotify's engineering culture? Okay, cool. Write that down. That's a must-watch video. Hendrik Niebuhr is a good friend, very brilliant coach. leading the Agile movement at Spotify. They have a lot of great online videos. So I watched this video, and it's one of those drawing videos, right? They're pretty cool to watch anyways. And he does his talk, and the story paints itself out. And it talks about how they actually built software. Well, I didn't get that out of the video. What I got was a new vocabulary for us to adopt. I didn't like the notion of saying, well, okay, you're in charge of business development, so these two people report to you, right? It just didn't feel right. We weren't trying to do that. What we want to do is create an organization where we form squads or tribes, right? But I'll stick with the term squads, and we focus on a problem and we solve it together, right? And then we squad on the next problem, we squad on that. I don't want all this hierarchy, right? I want people to apply their knowledge to the best they can. So we'll do the collaboration aid on that squad board. We'll say, okay, Al, we need to solve this problem. How are we going to do it? And so watch the video. Just Google Spotify culture, and you'll find it. There's 2 15-minute videos. There's lots of other great videos by Spotify and Henrik out there, too, to watch. But it's a quick learn. And so what we did at Lean Dog, we said, wow, we like this vocabulary. So we went over to the wall that we have, which I didn't put a picture in, which we have a cadence wall, and it shows all the meetings we have at Lean Dog, why we have them, and which delight that it honors. So is that for customer delight, people delight, business delight, right? But we also have our Lean Dog vocabulary. So this is how we work. These are our systems policies, if you will. We use FISTA 5. We use Collaboration 8, right? We use the word tribe to mean this. We use squads to mean this, right? So we actually have defined our vocabulary. So if anybody new comes into my culture, right, they can understand that we've all agreed to this, and they need to understand this is how this society has agreed to function. This is what meetings we have, this is our responsibility and accountability, and these are the things we do. So we adopted some of that. This is a little bit deeper look at tribes and chapters and squads, but right now we're primarily on our leadership team using the squad term. And what we've done is we create squad boards, okay? So we don't have enough walls, right? But we have a hell of a lot of trifolds, okay? And a lot of them. And so here, this one's for, I think, what is it? Yeah, it's training, yeah, the training squad. So we kind of have, here's our, across the top, autonomy and control, right? Responsible, accountable. So where we signed up, and then we have our long-term mission, like what's our goal with training? What's our product strategy? How are we going to measure it? When we do a retrospective, what are our improvement ideas for around training? And then we have all these goals. So I can't remember what the goals are. ATDD, want to standardize. We're doing an embedded C class with James Grending. I can't remember what that one is. But anyways, we have 4 goals, 4 epics that we did do. So we decompose those into small backlogs, and we create really small Kanban boards. The reason we use trifolds is these go to meetings with us, right? We carry these things around, and we say, well, we're having a training squad meeting. So we just grab the board, we go in there, we open it up, we talk about it, we do a retrospective, we move around, we sign up for work. We take that work, we put it on our Trello board, okay? So it's back in our backlog, okay? So I signed up to be, a 3 on this training thing. That means I better have been signed up for some work. So whatever cards my name are on, I'm putting on my personal board. We don't have a training board. We all have personal boards, okay? We could, we could have one, but we don't in this case. Make sense? Okay, thanks. We have lots of boards, stacks of them. There's like, I don't know, 30 right there probably, but they're all over the place. And so we have a little bin, and we have a little post-it notes so we can find the boards quickly. And typically, if you own the boards, they're close to wherever you're hanging out for the day. But often we're tripping over them. So there's a lot of them. And then that's part of the cleanup on Friday is which boards aren't we using? Get rid of them, right? Let's get rid of the waste, the clutter, all right? Okay, step 7, ceremonies and cadence. So we have a daily stand-up. We have bi-weekly sprints. So we meet and we go over at a high level. We do retrospectives, and then I do one-on-ones with everybody just to understand prioritization at the highest level, because my job is kind of to see the whole. But it's one thing to do that, but we still have to have a roll-up picture, right? We can't have all these stand-ups and Trello boards. It's just too much. So I talked about the stand-up already. So we have epic prioritization. So this is an example. Right now it's a spreadsheet because it's Google Docs and we travel. And I go out and meet with people and I got to talk about the plan. But we have all of our functions down the left side. These are the extra categories I didn't show you before. Who the primary responsible person is. This is the person who's scheduling the squad meetings, right? And quarterbacking it, right? So there might be more people responsible, but we didn't put them all on here because it's changing. and we didn't want to change the sheet. We're like, okay, we'll just, as long as the primary doesn't change, we don't have to update the sheet. Where do they keep their backlog? Is it on a board? Is it on a wall? What goals have they completed? What are the next 3? And then we kind of lay out the cards. This only shows the dollar ones, but this is also how we do budgeting. So we're speaking at next week at Fort Lauderdale at a South Florida conference, right? We're giving out, I don't know, 400 books of our Agile discussion guide at $8 a piece. So I had to go through and say, hey, you know, I got $3,200 that I want to spend to execute this card on that training board or that marketing board, and we put it out here, and then we can roll up the decisions. So when we do the spending wall meeting, we can also look at the epic level, because a lot of the spending wall is just little stuff. Sometimes it's these. Sometimes people forget to put on the spending wall. So this is just, you know, it's a cash business. So we got to keep an eye on it, and make sure that we're doing the right spend for the right outcomes. All right. So that was it. That's what we do. It's a continual work in progress. And how much time we have left? 11. So that's the boat before we renovated it. So it was a restaurant called Hornblowers. Had no toys, no boat docks. We added a building. This is a U.S. COD World War II submarine that's right next to us. And so, questions? Yes?
Where can I get a copy of the Agile discussion?
I'll give you one. Yep, we're going to get a copy of our book. You can get it online as well. We have an iPad version. We have videos. You can subscribe to it. Some companies have chosen to adopt our book as their like PMO standard. Like, well, you guys are always adding and doing it, so why should we write up our own? Just send us as you discover better ways, software, toss it in there. We also have an app. So the Lean Dog app has Collaboration 8, Fista 5, T-shirt sizes for estimation and planning, and 6 thinking hats. The reason we created an app is I can't remember all that stuff either, right? So we're 6 thinking hats. What's that blue hat? Oh, okay. So it's a free app, and it just gets you. It has those for reference, and so if you have somebody new and say, hey, we're going to go through this process, it's just a quick reference, guys. Nothing fancy. And on our site, you can get a lot of other stuff. Other questions? Yep.
Collaboration 8, if you have time. That's part of your presentation.
Explain Collaboration 8 again? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, everybody good with that? Or any other questions? I can do that last. Any other burning questions? Okay, let's do that. I have no idea where that was at. There we go. Okay. So the idea here is that you're talking about how much autonomy and control you want for an outcome for a piece of work. So you're signing up saying, well, I really feel passionate about this, and I really want to tell you what I want to do. It has to be this way, and that's how passionate I am about carrying out that work. I want to make sure it's done right, and I want to do it. First, I consider this to be my responsibility, but I want to get buy-in from others. So I hear you. I really want it. I'm passionate about it, but I'm really wanting to talk to everybody on my team about it and get buy-in. Because sometimes if you're one, you don't need any help. Like, oh, you've done this before. You just want to knock it out of the park. Cool, knock it out of the park again. I don't need support. 3 is kind of, you know what? I really want to consult. You guys are over here and you're really passionate about it. You know, I kind of want to be up in this responsibility because I'm not as passionate about it as you guys. Like, I don't have really strong opinions, but I definitely want to consult, give you my input, and I want to agree with you on what we do. Okay. 4 is I want to pair with you. Right? We'll mutually disagree. It's 50-50. Let's figure this out and let's get this done. And we're both equally responsible and accountable. Right? 5 is, okay, I just want to give you insight, but then you make your own decision. So I'll tell you everything I know about that, and then you decide what you want to do. Okay? And if you don't take my input, you don't take my input. Right? I chose not to be responsible. Right? You did. So you're going to be accountable because you're responsible. Right? I'm consulting and informing you. That's all I'm doing. And that's kind of what the advice is. And then the inquiry is, you know, I trust you to do the work, but I want to understand so I can support you. Right? So same thing. You know, hey, you know, I asked Alistair he said he'd take the food, and then, God, we had beans and rice, and you know, in a closed conference, that was a bad idea. And next time, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna maybe take more responsibility with Alistair next time, and I'm gonna jump over and help him because I didn't like the outcome. I can't say, hey, Alistair, that was horrible. You're a horrible person because you chose beans and rice. I chose not to have an input, right? So it's not fair for me to judge him when I chose not to have any responsibility, and he was willing to take that on, okay? And then delegates, like, yeah, whatever we eat, right? You know, it'll happen. I don't even want to know about it. I don't want to see the menu. I don't want to be copied on the emails. I don't want to be in the meetings, right? So you'll hear us sometimes around Lean, we're talking, and we'll talk about something. We're like, okay, where are you at on that? You 4, right? Or are you 7? Like, because, or, you know, geez, you were a 7, and now you're a 4. So here's using the numbers, right? Because it's pretty easy to remember 4 is pairing, right? It's in the middle. And so it's pretty easy system to remember. So that's how we use it. I haven't heard us use the word joker too much because it hasn't been an issue, and most people aren't good at that. It's easier just to say response, you know, courage, communication, respect. Can we talk about this? Yes?
I'm wondering, in my mind, 7's too many.
Yeah.
5's a good number. Do you really need 7? Do you really use all 7?
We have been, just because it was an easy formula to remember. I don't know that we use all the numbers all the time, right? I agree with you. Racy was 4, right? Responsible accountable consultant 4. There was no middle pair. And we thought, okay, well, let's pick 4.
5's real good, right?
Yeah, it could be.
I'm curious, because for me, I'm looking at this like
Were you flipping me off right there with a, no. 5, you said 5's real good. Yeah, so
that's the beans and rice thing.
it could be 5. I don't care what the pattern is, right? If 5 works for you, use 5. Yeah.
Curious, this was, you guys have 7, you use 7.
Yeah.
7's a good number for you.
Jurgen had 7, and we changed the vocabulary and changed the way we used it. And so in respect to that, we didn't want to like, oh, we're going to blow it up and go to 5, right? It was just, it really didn't matter to us at the end of the day. We knew 4 was in the middle, and we knew there were 7.
Every project's got to have a quant, right?
Well, no, or you could have 4s, right? Just a whole, I mean, as long as you have people that are responsible and accountable, right? Sometimes things are 4s, right? All 4s, you know, and there's, and because we all feel the same passion about it, and we all want to work on it at the same level and do it. And so it really is, it's more about, it's just like anything in that, it's the conversation. This creates the right setting to have the right conversation. Economy control is hard. It's really hard to do because it changes. You know, and I change, you know, we all change on a daily basis. Like sometimes I really want to be involved, and then sometimes now I'm overwhelmed and I just can't be involved. And so, you know, we had a situation even come to this conference. I was at the boat late last night, and we didn't have any supplies packed in the car, right? And 4 or 5 of us are coming down, and so we didn't do a responsibility. Hey, we're going to this conference. We need to print some marketing material. Let's break down the work for that. We didn't take time to actually talk about that, so we failed. We didn't fail. We almost failed. Last minute, we're like, oh crap, we got to bring 100 books down for our class tomorrow. We got to, you know, who's going to hand out the print? And Greg had to leave here and go to a meeting, and you know, we didn't actually form as a squad. Say, if we're going to go to Columbus and take a day, 2 days away from the office, how are we going to define success, and who's going to do what aspects of it? Yeah. So we had nobody. Since we didn't do that, getting the marketing materials down here there was nobody responsible and accountable for that. Retrospect after this will be, wow, why didn't we have a quick squad meeting? We were sending a squad of 5 people down to Columbus. That's a high cost.
Shameless plug, we had Lean Dog in a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, thank you. Awesome, thank you. Good to hear. Nice to get positive feedback. Yes?
So just another example, we've used this actually
Yeah.
Out of Views, where
Yes.
we had engineering directors and the IMs kind of tripping over themselves on
Yeah.
what the responsibilities were. So we wrote down what we thought all the responsibilities were, and then the directors and the IMs got together and said, where do we feel the directors are
Sure.
in making decisions on things like hiring
Yeah.
and process changes and things like that. So we use this as an
Good.
example to do that.
So that's good to hear. So they're still using it to Fuse, so it's working for them. That's been a while now too. Okay, so like even if you go to the Fuse, like a lot of those walls aren't there anymore. They served their purpose. They died. They got us on the same page. It's often your hardest problems will be on your walls. If you come to Lean Dog, you'll see our customers and matching our people up. That's our hardest problem, right? Making sure we can have business delight and people delight, and matching that up with the culture. So we have more walls about that than anything, because it's the hardest thing we do every day, is make those two things work. And so I'm glad to hear this is working for you. Any other questions? Yes.
Is this slide deck going to be available?
It will be. We'll have it available on our Lean Dog SlideShare off our site, but I'm sure the conference will, because they're doing audio, video, and there is a QR code, by the way, on the back of your card, and that's for feedback. I haven't checked it out myself, but this little thing on the back of your card, that's for feedback. So, but I think every Path Agility conference has made the slides available, right? Alice, are people spoke here before? Yeah. COHAA website? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
So what do you do with something is already done and archived on your wall? What do you do to keep archive off your walls?
We don't care. We just throw them away. I mean, at the Epic level, I care. So that spreadsheet, that's because reality is at the end of the year, we're all switching roles. And I don't know where that's at. That spreadsheet, that's why I have a done column. It's got to be further right. Oh, did I pass it? Oh, there. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So that's why this goal is completed. That just says, oh, wow, okay, we achieved this part, we completed it. That's a way we earn respect across people, because it's really easy to forget what your peers have done, right? And, oh, that's right, we launched our Agile Discussion Guide 3.0, 3.2, and we did this and we did that. So we have to celebrate our successes. And so we take these goals to the leadership level, and we have our company meeting. That's what we share. We also have on every board a retrospective on every board. So we also have a retrospective wall. And so we also roll up our retrospective. And so at our company meeting, we pull these things, and we use that for the next level of communication out. Because most people don't know what we do and what we can complete. Right? They think we're just spinning wheels up there, and we aren't really getting stuff done. We're just defending everything. Good question. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.